Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good.
Hello YouTube, this is Hand of Nergal. I am new here. This is my first video. It happens to be a response to a video which is probably a little old, and it looks like it already had at least maybe half a dozen people who responded to it. So this is probably a little old, and it's sort of like beating a dead horse to death, and for that I apologize. However, I am new here, and for other reasons I decided to respond to this. Gives me an opportunity to test out techniques for making movies, and I thought it would be fun. And also, it's sort of like inherently offensive to atheists, so sort of like waving a red cape in front of a bull. So the video I'm responding to was called "Random Questions Atheists Will Look Stupid While Trying to Answer," and it was put up by Man Up Power Up. This is Hand of Nergal attempting to respond while not trying to look stupid. Alright, the first question with the termites and the bacteria. I don't know if your question is which one evolved first or why it happens to be that way. I'll try to answer both. Firstly, the bacteria evolved first, obviously. It's single cell life. So that came first, and the termite came afterwards because it's multicellular life. But what you're talking about is called symbiosis, and we can find examples of symbiosis in nature. They even differentiate between endo and exosymbiosis. What you're talking about is endo. So there are bacteria inside of the termite that help them process the cellulose in wood, for example. And there are also bacteria inside of your stomach that help you process food. Now, that relationship is beneficial for both organisms. Obviously, I guess the bacteria living inside the stomach, they get a free ride and they're protected from the elements. And they might also benefit from the processing of the food inside of the stomach. And also the termite obviously is benefiting. We see examples in nature. There's a fish called a remora, and that's an example of exosymbiosis. And it swims along with the sharks, and it feeds off of the excess that the sharks can't eat because they're sloppy eaters, and as a result they get groomed and cleaned by the remora. And they also travel with whales. And another example of endosymbiosis is one of my favorite. It's the mitochondria, which is an organelle inside of a living cell. And they believe that apparently the mitochondria at some point in the past invaded the cell. And that would, I guess, explain why mitochondria has its own DNA. So we see rich examples in nature of symbiosis, such as the one you pointed out. It's not exactly the best argument for your side. I could easily say, why would God make an animal that needs to eat cellulose or process cellulose instead of something that's a lot easier to process? Because cellulose is actually pretty hard to process. Why would God not give them the enzymes that they need to process this? Why does he need to give them bacteria? That could be called a sloppy design or a poor design. Second question. No half human, half monkey hybrids. I'm sorry, I have to laugh. That's not how evolution works. What you're talking about is hybridization. Hybridization is not a method of evolution. It is a result of reproduction between two similar but different species. Humans and monkeys, they can't mate because they're not genetically compatible. They're just separated by too many DNA sequences, I imagine. Evolution, and science supports that. Evolution tells us that there shouldn't be any half-human, half-monkey hybrids, and it just so happens that there aren't. Not only are things still evolving, but we can witness it. We can witness something called speciation. And we even have the power on some levels to induce mutation, to influence it. and we have different theories for why things mutate. One of them is the reproduction of DNA. If you make 100 photocopies of an original, each copy is not going to be the same. In the same way as you reproduce the DNA, there will be random mutations in the sequence that is billions of chains long. That's one method of mutation. So we can witness mutation, we can witness speciation. Why does evolution base its theory off of death? Why? Stop being a crybaby. Why does your God demand human sacrifice in the Bible? Why does your God demand the genocide of people like Midianites and Jebusites and Perizzites and all the other table of nations of people who have gone under the sword in the name of Yahweh? I'm assuming you're a worshiper of one of the many gods that have sprung out from a religion originating in the Middle East sometime in the Bronze Age. Why does your God demand the death of 99% of all the things that ever lived? And even if you have issues with the age of the universe as we claim it, and you have to admit that there are fossils, and the fossils do point to mass extinctions. Why do stars die? Why do they need to die? We have a theory. We have an explanation. All the atoms in your body came from a dying star. You need death in order to live. You need death for life. You need to break up pieces of plants and animals in order to live. Why does your God demand the death of things in order for you to eat? By the way, by definition, cannot be proven or disproven. God is not testable, and therefore he doesn't even belong in the same sentence as science, let alone in the same class. Maybe in the same classroom if you're teaching theology, but it doesn't belong in the same realm as science. I think the founding fathers realized that when they separated church and state. Some things seem organized but have natural explanations. Look at the snowflake. Alright, it appears to be designed. It's very symmetrical. We can make snowflakes if we wanted to. You can say that, well, God made them, and we can say, well, we can make them. And then you'll say, aha, that's proof that snowflakes have to be made because we have to make them. Well, I can say if a human being can make a snowflake, then why is there a need for God to make one in the first place? And maybe there's a bunch of things that God didn't make or need to make. Maybe some things just form naturally. In Northern Ireland, there's a World Heritage Site called the Giant's Causeway. And along the coast there are these huge columns made up of salt. And according to the legend, they were built by a giant to fight another giant. It's a beautiful legend, a beautiful sight. However, it wasn't made artificially. It has a natural explanation. It was formed when liquid molten rock came up through a chalk bed and rapidly dried, making these columns that are shaped like hexagons. So they look man-made, they look artificial, but they have a natural explanation. And I'm suggesting that there are many things that have natural explanations, in addition to the things that just seem like they're organized but really aren't. So I'm asking you, what's more likely? Is it more likely that there are things that occur naturally and have the appearance of order, despite the natural phenomenon which made them? Phenomenon that can be observed and explained by us hairless apes? Or is it more likely that an omnipotent God made everything seen and unseen and decided to give us clues, deliberately intending to mislead us, to think us that we really caught on to how he made them, but really haven't, and that just seem to require no God? It requires us to believe in a God that is not only elusive and difficult to understand, but misleading. Why do you believe in a misleading God? There are some creationists. I've heard this account. I don't know if it's true or if it's a joke. I think it's true that there are some creationists who believe that the devil put fossils in the earth to test the faith of Christians.